Good morning. Welcome everybody on this beautiful, chilly fall day. It's so lovely out. The sky and the colors, and I hope everybody gets a chance this afternoon to head out and enjoy some of this loveliness. I'm glad to be here with you this morning. This time and this place are hallowed by our presence and our commitment. Welcome. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you vote, whatever your race, age, class, or gender, whatever spiritual paths you have traveled, if any, you are welcome here. Our faith calls us not to a particular creed, but to a covenant to honor every person's worth and dignity. All we ask is that you come with an open mind and an open heart. I am Lauren Agrella Sevilla, and I am a member here at the Unitarian Universalists of Transylvania County, where our mission is to support the individual spiritual journey and to promote social, economic, and environmental justice for all. To learn more about us, sign up for our newsletter at uutc.org. A few announcements this morning. For good health and safety, please wear masks while in the building. If you would use clipboards to sign your name and telephone number in case contact tracing becomes necessary, that would be great. Enjoy the music, and please hum and clap along as you're willing and able. Offering baskets won't be passed from hand to hand, but you can drop your contribution and your name tag into the basket at either side of the sanctuary or the bowls by the doors on your way out. Tuesdays between 11:30 and 1:30, all are welcome to bring a lunch and join us on the Fellowship Green under the colored shade sails. Either of these events are good ones for getting acquainted with folks here at UTC. This Tuesday evening, you can join us online or in person for a special presentation in our author series by writer Nicola Koresh at 7 p.m. You can tune in on Facebook or on YouTube. If you do attend in person, please plan to wear a mask as you're doing this morning. You may have read an email this week that reminds us about the November 14th Power Up fundraiser that helps us support our neighbors in Brevard. Please join us for that and check out the information out front for more details. This month's collection is Sharing House. This has been the hardest year on record for the ministry at Sharing House. They've exceeded every crisis assistance marker that they track. The number of people served, the pounds of food given away, the amount of overdue rent, and the utility bills paid. Please be generous as you are able in your giving.
Cantate Domino, cante con nuovo, cantate, 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 benedicite Domini eius. Cantate Domino, cante con nuovo, cantate, cantate, cantate.
That is beautiful. Opening words today are from The Creation by E.O. Wilson. The modern techno-scientific revolution, including the great leap forward of computer-based information technology, has betrayed nature by fostering the belief that the cocoons of urban and suburban material life are sufficient for human fulfillment. That is an especially serious mistake. Human nature is deeper and broader than the artificial contrivance of any existing culture. The spiritual roots of Homo sapiens extend deep into the natural world through still mostly hidden channels of mental development. We will not reach our full potential without understanding the origin and hence meaning of the aesthetic and religious qualities that make us ineffably human. We'll listen now to our first hymn, number 134, Our World is One World. The chalice lighting this morning comes from some words by Karen G. Johnston, a child's chalice lighting of gratitude for the earth. What if, when I light the chalice, you hear an invitation to welcome gratitude for the earth? This week, as I got ready to light the chalice, my family talked about blessings from this planet. We read a set of blessings inspired by First Nations peoples at our dinner table in the evening. And those blessings include honoring medicine herbs, the sun, the stars, the moon, the four winds, beans and berries and food plants, and animals and fish life. Our son sometimes requests reading a particular panel that they're feeling interested in for that evening. We also noticed the brightness of Orion in the sky this week and some of those beautiful, beautiful fall colors. And now with this flame of hope shedding light in your heart, I'll light our chalice and ask Kevin to come forward and light the children's chalice. I'm curious, what is your list of things that you might be expressing gratitude for in your heart, blessings from this planet? now comes the time in our service when we have the chance to share our joys and our sorrows. We believe that joys are magnified, worries reduced, and grief eased by speaking them aloud and sharing them. I invite those who are watching this service on Sunday morning to participate by the typing of any joys and sorrows you would like to share in the comments of the streaming platform you're using. We won't see them right now, but we'll include a candle for them at the end. I'd like to light a candle for those whose work allows us to live our lives easier and safer. Those in the front lines who've been asked again and again to be heroes in this ongoing pandemic, in essential services, in education. May this light bring comfort to those who serve. I'd like to light a candle of gratitude for those who've committed themselves to stand on the side of justice, speaking out and taking action, and advocating for those who've been denied their rights. That too is an ongoing line of work. May this light bring courage to those who speak up. I light a candle for those whose prayers are lifted up at home. For folks whose voices aren't here in this room for us to hear them, we hold them in our hearts. This light is burning here at UUTC and for all these things, even as we cannot be face to face with one another. And finally, I light a candle for any care or any hope that you are not yet ready to share. May this light, kindled by all of our hearts, be a torch that you carry forward, knowing that we hold you in our hearts. Would anyone else like to give voice to joys or concerns this morning in this space? You can just stand up where you are, yeah.
I would like to light one for my niece's husband who died yesterday of COVID. He didn't believe the shots.
So lighting a candle for your niece's husband who is young, yes. Anybody else have something on your heart this morning that you'd like to share out loud? So we'll light one more candle just for everything else that may be lingering, that we are witnessing one another's joy and pain, even though those things are unspoken. Thanks, RK. We'll get to enjoy musical reflection from Steven Tyler's Dream On.
Everybody dream, dream on.
R.K. Young has been our administrator here at UUTC since 2015, and this morning we had a short conversation about who might be her #1 fan club. I think there's a pretty good contest going on about lots of people in RK's fan club. Her time here was before she was an art teacher in a middle school, of middle school students for 19 years. She was a 3-time Teacher of the Year, co-founder of the Southern Artists League in Lowndes County, Georgia, and a grant writer. RK and her partner, Kay Webb, have been coaxing a native landscape out of their 1/4-acre lot in town since moving here in 2008. A yard that was once nearly solid grass is now mostly habitat. RK calls their back porch her happy place, where she can listen to the birds they've worked so hard to be able to make a home for. We're delighted that we get to hear RK's sermon this morning, Life on Earth.
Thank you, Lauren. Just a moment while I make my watch go to sleep. If any of you have that same problem, I want to thank Janice and Elaine for the lovely work on their music today. It's very apt in a lot of ways. John Young, a former Apollo astronaut, said, "If you want to see an endangered species, get up and look in the mirror." Intellectually, we know that the harshness of this statement is because of our difficulty in doing the necessary things that more immediately impact other lesser species before they ultimately impact us. So we try to make the threat to our own species feel more imminent in order to shake us out of our presumed complacency. Why do we have such a hard time with this? I think that we tend to believe that it's a matter of hubris, and maybe sometimes it is. But when I think of my own behavior, I know it's more than that. I really understand the problem. I really don't want things to go south, as it were. And yet I still make daily decisions that impact the rest of life on Earth unfavorably. There are things that I'm doing right and things that UUTC is doing right, partly because you folks hired me to help implement your missional values, and the board has taken numerous steps to keep us on that path. So we buy recycled toilet paper, we use unscented organic soaps and cleaning products, we've installed LED lighting in most of the interior of the church and all of the outdoor fixtures to cut our energy consumption. We signed up with Arcadia Clean Energy and therefore forced Duke Power to purchase wind credits to offset our use. Our outdoor lighting is low on the Kelvin color temperature scale, and all our lighting is set to dark skies compliant fixtures to reduce our impact on insects and other night creatures. Unfortunately, that's the easy, intellectually driven stuff. We could spend more money to improve window efficiency or to install solar panels, but that would still not get to the root of the problem, which is a problem of relationship. This is the month that we're talking about cultivating relationship. The relationship we have with other life on Earth. For modern humans, that relationship is very transactional. There are times we break through to a real connection, so I'm going to take you on a short memory trip to see if you have something similar lurking in your cell memory. As a rambling kid, I spent hours just poking around and looking at stuff. I remember maple trees being tapped and stealing our neighbors' raspberries, wandering blocks from home to find pussy willows. I remember running in shorts on the crusty top of frozen snow that had refrozen from the previous day's melt, and then squealing when it broke and I dropped a leg into the cold stuff up to my shorts. Very vivid. I loved the crisp, clean scent of fresh snow and the quietness. I remember when we had moved to South Georgia, discovering reindeer moss and finding it at first all stiff, where if you pressed too hard, you would snap pieces off. But right after rain, if you checked on that same plant, it had absorbed all the rain, was soft and pillow-like. I watched for snakes and gopher tortoises, really anything that moved. But I most loved watching the birds. And I would wander all over the place, not respecting a single property line, looking for new things until I had to get home. Dad helpfully built me a split-level tree house spanning 4 spindly trees to get me off the ground and keep me closer to our own property. I spent hours there watching and occasionally drawing the birds. I began to treasure certain personality traits in the birds and figuring out my favorites. As a kid, most of my favorites had some bright color. I loved watching the little ones, like titmice and chickadees, dash right in where the larger birds feared to tread. As I've gotten older, I treasure bird calls and songs even more than seeing them, because I can be connected to the birds in that way while working on other things. Some songs are more treasured than others. I'm not particularly fond of crows, but my favorite here is the song sparrow, who finds his high perch declaring, "The world is wonderful, and that this little piece of it is his. Thank you very much." Do you have something in nature that brings you that kind of joy? Something you cherish and look forward to, if not daily, at least weekly? It might just be a pet, but still. Do you remember the first time you set up a bird bath and a bird actually used it? Or when the milkweed you finally got to grow was visited by an actual monarch butterfly and started getting gobbled up by the caterpillars? How did that make you feel? Were you giddy, excited, scared you would run out of milkweed? Happened to me. This summer, the bird songs were disrupted. News of some new disease that was decimating songbirds came in from all along the East Coast, and birders were told to take down their feeders to stop the spread of whatever was doing the damage. And this was sad, and I took down the big feeder and went on about my work. So how do we get to a place where the loss of songbirds is more than a sadness? How do we get to a place where the desire to connect with those other species becomes a real spiritual need? Our 7th principle asks us to be in relationship with everything. Respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Respect may not be the right word, frankly. Thou shalt respect the copperhead, just as your child. Thou shalt respect the spiders that bedeck your home. Thou shalt respect the dung beetles and other bugs that clean up behind your dog. Thou shalt respect that every living thing needs a home and something to eat. And frankly, respect is another intellectual separated word, describing a separated state where we can sit and judge and be respectful. And we are only separated from other life on earth in our own heads. So while it is well-intentioned, I'm not sure the 7th principle is a great motivator. When I was first thinking about talking to you today, it was an immediate response to the catastrophic impacts we are seeing on the news, the fires, the flooding, the disease, and it's really hard. We really can't airlift enough water to put out those fires. And we really can't build a big enough barrier to hold back all the hurricanes. And so it's easy to imagine that there really is nothing good we can do. So we may as well go on with our lives and just enjoy it while we can. At least that's the kind of thoughts I have had. This is part of my own spiritual battle, where I can get discouraged and depressed. About how little an impact I can really have. Excuse me. to the extent that I stop trying. And my work is to pick myself back up and get back at it. Our opening words today from Edward O. Wilson's book, The Creation, has a subtitle, An Appeal to Save Life on Earth. The book was published in 2006. It is framed in the voice of a man who grew up in the Baptist faith and is speaking to a Southern Baptist pastor. He mentions the root of his previous faith's planet-destroying tendencies, the fact that the earth is just a way station, as he puts it, to a second eternal life. Basically, anything you do here doesn't matter if you're saved, so go ahead and do with it as you will. The Unitarian Universalist covenant rejects that point of view, of course, but just saying it isn't so doesn't actually make it not so. The basis of life is insects. There are roughly 200 million of them for every one of us. Without insects, we would lose most reptiles and amphibians and about half of all bird species. Insects pollinate at least a third of the total volume of crops cultivated worldwide, and they eat all the poo left by any creature that doesn't have indoor plumbing. And they clean up the dead. Things die and poo daily, you may have noticed. We'd be in a pretty big mess pretty quickly. As it happens, we're making good progress on getting ourselves into that mess. 16 studies have confirmed that insect populations declined by 45% in the last 4 decades. But all is not lost, because if there is something we can have, that we can all have an impact on in this life, it's insects. An acre of diverse habitat can have as many as 400 million insects. UUT's campus is roughly an acre and a half. We have the potential to house 600 million insects. Wow! Isn't that exciting? No? Okay, well, I think it is. That's a lot of bird food. I know some of you have creepy crawlies just thinking about this, but a 2010 study of Canadian biologists suggests that North American bird species that depend on aerial insects for feeding themselves and their offspring have suffered much more pronounced declines than other perching birds that feed mainly on seeds. This year, after the record-breaking songbird deaths on the eastern coast, when scientists were looking to see what pathogen was killing the birds and warned all of us birders to take down our feeders, the verdict was malnutrition. Our songbirds are starving today. They're starving to death this year. They're starving to death right now. We cannot wait to let the next generation fix this. So again, how do we get past respect? Because clearly that's not getting the job done. Diversity of birds and bugs requires a diversity of plants. And they need to be plants that don't suppress our native species of plants. We need plants that will end up with holes in their leaves because some larva ate that plant and then got grabbed by a songbird and then was shoved into the mouth of a baby bird. Lots of bugs eat only certain plants. We all understand this. So what makes us choose to use pesticides, to plant things that won't support insects, to have expanses of lawn that we maintain to perfection with more pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides? That's a lot of killing all in one sentence. I think we need to get to the why. Why does a perfect lawn matter? Why do we have to make our yards look good? Homeowners have plenty of control over their use of lighting, their grounds, whether they use a gas lawnmower, which is really astronomically awful, whether they use chemical controls, whether they have some type of water feature, whether they remove invasive species. All these things have big impacts on insect life and on climate change. Why then would we intentionally choose to meet some societal definition of a beautiful yard at the expense of beautiful creatures? I'm going to ask you to humor me with a very small exercise. You will need a partner in this exercise, and those of you who arrived with a partner may have to have the courage to partner with someone else for this exercise, just so that we get everybody covered, okay? And no, you don't have to get close enough to hug. Find that other person right now. They just have to be close enough for you each to be able to look in the other's eyes for a moment. Gypsy, John, I want to make sure everybody gets somebody that can look in their eyes. There we go. Okay. I just love you guys. Raise your hand when you're ready. Okay. Got that person. Looking them in the eyes. In your head. Looking at and considering the well-being of that person. Say, I love you. In your head. Say it again. In your head, while looking at that person and considering their goodwill and intentions. Okay, now you can stare at your hands in your lap. How did that make you feel? Did you, for a moment, feel more vulnerable? Did you feel a connection? We were built to make connections. We were given hearts and ears and eyes and hands to reach out and make connections. We were given laughter and tears and, yes, even raucous behavior at sporting events. And yet, most of all the time, we hide ourselves to keep safe from being hurt. And to this self-enforced isolation is what makes us self-absorbed and unable to enjoy the birds we cease to hear. There have been several teachers through the ages that have urged us to love one another. Isn't the pursuit of love, even more than respect, the reason behind the clothes we wear, the way we decorate our homes, the reason we seek partners? We all need love. Every living being needs it, even plants and animals. Many people have witnessed or even videoed a surviving bird trying to save or stand guard over its dead partner. This happens with mammals all the time, but we don't usually credit other creatures with these emotions. Science has progressed to the point where we know that even corn and trees communicate with each other and look out for each other's welfare. This is built into our DNA. But we keep trying to raise ourselves above ourselves to some safe perch. There isn't one. We're all we have, collectively, as life on earth. If we make a commitment to improve the lives of insects and birds in our yards, what would that feel like? Would it feel like respect? If we began to notice the fruits of our labors through bird song, or birds nesting, or birds cussing each other out, would it make us feel more respectful? Or might it be something richer, even enriching, more like that feeling of looking in another's eyes and whispering, I love you, more like cherishing. To have and to hold, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish till death do us part. Let's build a seventh principle that reads, cherishing the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, and see how it feels. Thank you.
It's a gift to hear your passion. Thank you. The closing words for our morning here together come from a reading, We Belong to the Earth. Feel free to read along with me on those words that are on the screen if that is something you'd like to do. This we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. This we know, all things are connected, like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. These words are attributed to Chief Noah Self. Our closing hymn for the morning is Blue Boat Home.
As I extinguish the chalice, I have a final note for you to get you started. The 2021 Wildflower of the Year is American Beautyberry. It's a shrub, grows in sun and light shade. Birds love it. Maybe you should plant one this year.